In the last session, we have gone through two paradigms. So the first was classical programming paradigm and the second was the machine learning paradigm. So we have seen when to use classical programming and when to go for machine learning. So I hope you are clear with the concepts. So let's proceed with today's discussion. So today we are going to quickly go through the history of machine learning. A machine that is intellectually capable as much as humans are has always triggered the imagination of writers who write the science fiction stories and also the early computer scientists who were excited about artificial intelligence and machine learning. But if we look at the first machine learning system was developed in 1950s. So Arthur Samuel, who was working at IBM, he developed a program for playing one game called as checkers game. You might be knowing that game, checkers game. So he developed a program for playing checkers. The program was able to observe positions at the game and learn a model that gives better moves for the machine player. The system actually undergone playing many games with the program developed by Samuel. And what he observed was that the program was able to play better in the course of time with getting more and more experience of board games. And this is how Samuel coined the term machine learning. And he defined learning as a field of study that gives computers the ability without being explicitly programmed. So this is the definition given by Arthur Samuel, and this definition was published in 1959. So he stated that machine learning is a field of study that gives computers the ability without being explicitly programmed. In 1960s, the neural network was introduced, and the very simple unit of neural network called as perceptron was proposed by Rosenblatt in around 1957 onwards. So it gained popularity in 1960s. After 3 years after proposing this perceptron, he also proposed a learning mechanism for perceptron, and that was known as delta learning rule. Development of neural network was a very exciting discovery at that time. Further, the work or the research was going on in neural network area in 1960s, and two scientists, Minsky and Papert, those proved later on few of the limitations of perceptron. And they said that the perceptron was not really useful for the data if it is non-separable. So that limitation was the significant limitation that was proposed by these two scientists, And then somewhat the popularity of neural network decreased. But during the same time, another technology was being developed, and that was the pattern recognition. In around 1970s, there was introduction of symbolic concepts in artificial intelligence. And also during the same era, the expert systems were also been proposed. So expert systems was part of artificial intelligence, or it is rather a part of artificial intelligence, and such kinds of systems were very much popular in that era of 1970s. Also in 1970s, natural language processing gained popularity. So the concepts were proposed under natural language processing. What we mean by natural language processing? Natural language processing is the processing of speech, kind of speech recognition systems, speaker identification systems, machine translation systems. So these kinds of systems were proposed in 1970s. Next, in 1980s, the decision tree algorithm was proposed, and basically in 1986, the decision tree algorithm ID3, the most popular decision tree algorithm, that is ID3, was proposed. Later on, in 80s only, the advanced decision trees, few of the variants of decision trees were proposed, and the learning mechanisms for decision trees were proposed. Further, in 1980s, there was a resurgence of neural network. The scientists or the researchers proposed going one step ahead of the perceptron, a neural network known as multi-layer perceptron. So earlier perceptron was a simple neural network unit, and it had some limitations. So in 1980s, once again, the research was continuously going on, and in 1980s, once again, the researchers came up with a new kind of neural network known as multi-layer perceptron. And in the same area, actually the most popular algorithm, which right now also we are using, backpropagation algorithm, was proposed to learn such multi-layer perceptrons. And this was the breakthrough actually in the research under neural networks. So the research was continued, and in 1990s, the most popular machine learning mechanism was proposed by Wapnick in 1995, and that was the support vector machines, popularly called as SVM. In 90s, the data mining tools, various data mining tools were also been proposed. Then adaptive agents and web applications, text learning, reinforcement learning, ensembles or boosting, that came around 1997, Bayes network. These are few of the concepts. Those were proposed by different researchers in 1990s. And continuously this area is being developed, and the researchers are adding into the state of the art. So let us list out few of the milestones, we may say, or the machine learning applications, those came up in front of the public forefront. So what are those applications, or what are those different milestones? Those came across in 90s and then onwards. So in 1994, the first self-driving car made a road test in 1994, right? So that was one of the biggest achievements, and this application came in front of the public. So self-driving car, and it has made a road test in 1994. After that, in 1997, you might be knowing, or you might have heard about Deep Blue was one of the supercomputers. So Deep Blue beat the world champion Garry Kasparov in chess. So this was one more achievement in machine learning area. In 2009, Google built a self-driving car. In 2011, IBM Watson won a Jeopardy. Jeopardy is one of the popular American television games or television shows. And this IBM Watson won that game. In 2014, human vision surpassed by machine learning systems. And then onwards, the development in the field of machine learning, and nowadays the development in deep learning is continuously going on. So this was the brief history to let you know how actually this machine learning technologies are being developed since 1950s. It is not the case that prior to 1950s there was not really the work related to machine learning, but the momentum has gained after 1950s. So with this now, let us proceed with the reasons why actually machine learning is gaining popularity in recent times. So can anybody mention what might be the reason? Any thoughts on this? Yes, anybody? Nowadays, there is a huge craze actually for machine learning, and machine learning is gaining a popularity. Everybody wants to learn machine learning. So what might be the reason? And why in recent days machine learning is growing very fast? Any ideas or any thoughts? No? Okay. Let me tell you, nowadays, say in after 2000 onwards, the new softwares and algorithms are coming in. Say for example, we are having the advanced versions of neural networks. So there is a huge rise of neural network, and it began roughly around 2005, right? And also the next step ahead, the neural networks, after neural networks, the deep learning mechanisms or deep learning technologies are also being built. So for deep learning, the basis is neural networks. And as the neural networks were advancing in around 2005 onwards, the deep learning concepts were also improving, and many variants of actually deep learning also are in picture nowadays. So this is one of the reasons why ML is gaining popularity, because by making use of the softwares, algorithms and the frameworks, those are coming in, due to these frameworks and these concepts, it is really very, or it is easy, or it is possible nowadays to build many different kinds of applications in various domains or the field of areas, right? So this is one of the major reasons why ML is gaining popularity. Advancements in softwares, typically the algorithms under neural networks and deep learning, and also many different frameworks are available to practically implement these kinds of algorithms. And this is one of the reasons why ML is gaining popularity, because it is finding many different applications or wide range of applications in almost all the domains. Next reason why ML is gaining popularity is introduction of new hardware and high performance computers. So you might be knowing that we are now having the GPUs. Those are graphical processing units, and they actually provide the huge computational power for computing, for online learning, and for building very huge deep learning networks. So this is one more advantage that I have got by the community of those who are working in machine learning. So GPUs are actually providing us a huge computational power, and that is why it is really very much possible now to get the work done in small amount of time, and that is why ML is gaining popularity. So that is the second reason. Third is, as you might be knowing, we are having the cloud computing or cloud enabled systems available. And the clouds are actually providing us very much different kinds of services those are required. So even though, say for example, if I'm a developer and if I'm not having some kind of infrastructure that is required to build ML applications or deep learning applications, then by making use of the infrastructure or the services available on cloud, it is possible for me to build such kinds of systems, even though personally I am not having that kind of infrastructure available with me. Even though if I am not having GPU available, there are the platforms, cloud platforms. Those are actually providing us that kind of a hardware. So similar very different types of services are being provided by cloud providers or the service providers of clouds, and we can make use of those functionalities available to build more and more systems. And this is, I think, one more reason why actually the machine learning is gaining the popularity. And the last reason that I may quote is like availability of big data. If you remember, I have stated earlier that if we would like to go with machine learning applications, we need significant amount of data, because typically our machine learning algorithms are learning from the data that is available. So it is very much important to collect that kind of a data. And due to the advancements in technologies, the hardware as well as software, now it is really very easy to acquire such kind of a big data. And there are many such systems nowadays running, and every day such kind of data is being generated at various enterprises, and that data can be made available through the technologies. And due to availability of such big data, it is possible to build the deep learning and machine learning systems by making use of all advancements in hardware, right? And this is one of the reasons that is boosting the machine learning applications in society. So I hope you must have understood the reasons why nowadays machine learning is so much popular. Am I clear? If you have any kinds of doubts, please go ahead. Please unmute yourself and ask the question if you have any kind of doubt. Yes? No doubts? May I proceed with the next?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So let us proceed now with the formal definition of machine learning. So here we are going to formally define machine learning. In fact, many different researchers have proposed different definitions for machine learning. We are going to look at few of such definitions, right? So probably we will be going through 3 such kinds of definitions proposed by different scientists. In fact, we have gone through one such definition, and that was by Arthur Samuel. So in 1959, he proposed that definition. And who was Arthur Samuel? He was actually working with IBM in 1950s, and as I mentioned earlier, he developed a program for playing the game checkers. And the program was able to observe the positions at the game and learn a model that gives better moves for the machine player. And what he observed was, whenever the program written by him was used to play more and more games, he observed that the program was able to play better by gaining the experience of the past board games. And this is how he coined the term machine learning. And what he defined is like this. He stated that machine learning is a field of study that gives computers the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. So this was the definition by Arthur Samuel. Later, I'm not going through all the definitions, but the most popular definitions and those we actually are making use of, I'm just citing those definitions. In 1998, Tom Mischel came up with one more definition. And what he mentioned was, a computer program is said to learn from experience E with respect to some task T and some performance measure P if its performance on task T as measured by P improves with experience E. So what does this mean? Let me elaborate this definition. So what he mentioned was, we are having a task that we would like to solve. So task is T. Right? So we are solving or we are working on this task with some kind of experience E. Right? And whenever we solve this task with experience E, we are measuring the performance, right? Performance in the sense, to what extent we are able to solve this problem. Okay, so what he mentioned, there is a task T. The task T is being solved with experience E, and after solving or after working on the task, the performance is also measured, and that is denoted as P. Now, if next time, if we try to solve the same task T with improved experience, then he said that the computer program learns from the experience, and next time the performance gets improved. So the same thing is being stated once again. I am precisely mentioning this definition. So what he stated, a computer program is set to learn from experience E with respect to some task T and some performance measure P if its performance on task T, same task T, as measured by P improves with experience E. Right? So we have solved one task T earlier with some prior experience, and we have computed the performance P. If we go for solving the same task once again with improved performance, right, in terms of a computer program I'm talking about, then we can find that with improvement of experience E, right, my computer program learns from that experience and it is possible to improve the performance. So this is what Tom Mitchell has proposed. To have a better understanding of this definition, let us go through few of the examples. So once again, let us see the example of playing checkers. Right? So let us see now what is task, what is performance, and what is experience in this situation. So task is playing checkers. Okay? So we would like to play checkers game. That is the task. What is P? That is the performance. How I am going to assess the performance? So performance is being assessed like percentage of games won against an arbitrary opponent. So how many times I am winning the game or my system is winning the game? That is the I am finding out the percentage of winning, right? And that is my performance metric P. So we know what is the task. It is playing checkers. What is the performance? It is percentage of winning the games. And what experience I used? Experience is playing practice games against itself. So experience is playing practice games, right? So with this experience, I tried to play checkers. So that was the task. And the performance is assessed by measuring the percentage of winning the games. Am I clear? Let us see one more example. Suppose we are having a task T. What is the task? We would like to recognize the handwritten words. So we are provided with some data, and these are the handwritten words, and we would like to recognize that. What I mean by we would, our machine would like to recognize that these handwritten words. Okay, so this is the task. Now, for solving or for working on this task, what is the experience that I have? I am having the database of human labeled images of handwritten words. So what I mean by that? If my machine wants to recognize handwritten words, my machine needs some experience in doing that or on working with that task. So what kind of experience I'll be having? So database, I'm having database or some images of handwritten words. But these images are labeled. So I am having some handwritten text, and along with that image I am having the label. What is that label? I know what has been written in that image, right? So say for example, let us talk about the characters only instead of words. So if this is the handwritten word A, then I am having a database that if this is the image where the handwritten character written is A, but I know the label that this image stands for the alphabet A. So similarly, I am having a database of such annotated images, right? So this is my experience. And now with this experience, my machine is going to recognize automatically now the handwritten words. So how I'm going to assess the performance of this system? So the performance is assessed once again as a percentage of words those are correctly classified. So after having this experience, my machine will learn to recognize the handwritten words. So whenever I am presenting something new to the machine, my machine will recognize those handwritten words. So I'll be finding out how many words are being correctly classified by my machine. How many words are correctly recognized by my machine. And I'll be finding out the percentage of this correct recognition, and that is the performance. Am I clear? If you have any doubts, please let me know. Unless you speak up, I'll not be able to understand whether you are understanding the concept or not. Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'll be having one more example here. The same example that we talked about earlier. So the task is, now it would be easier for you. The task is categorizing email messages as spam or non-spam. Right? So we would like to classify our email messages whether it is a spam or non-spam. Once again, the performance is the percentage of email messages those are correctly been classified, and E is the database of emails with human given labels. So we are having the set of emails. Those are being classified in advance, whether it is a spam or non-spam. So that is the experience with us. Based on that experience, my machine will categorize email messages, whether it is a spam or non-spam. And the performance is being measured as percentage of email messages those are correctly classified. Okay, so I hope you have understood the concepts, task, performance and experience as mentioned in the definition of Tom Mitchell. So once again, let us go through this definition so that now you can relate with the example, right? So what Tom Mitchell stated, a computer program is set to learn from experience E with respect to some task T and some performance measure P if its performance on T as measured by P improves with experience E. Right? So here our experience is typically a data set that we are providing to learn from. Our task may be anything. So our task utilizes that experience or that data set to learn and then produces the results. And whatever are the results, those are produced by my computer program. I am assessing the performance, right, of my program. So how I am going to assess the performance? Maybe I am finding out the accuracy. So how many instances are been correctly classified, something like that. Okay, and that becomes my performance. And if I go on incrementing my experience level, it may happen that my program learns better and better, right, with that experience, enhanced experience, and it is possible for me to witness the improvement in the performance. So I hope I'm clear with the concept. So may I proceed with next definition?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So let us proceed with the third definition that actually is very simple to understand, and this definition is from Hall Downie. So what he mentioned that machine learning is about predicting the future based on the past. Predicting the future based on the past. Very straightforward and simple definition of machine learning. So what he mentioned was, by making use of machine learning, it is possible to predict some future results. And to predict these future results, once again, he said that we are making use of some past. Right? So, see here how we can systematically provide a pictorial view of this definition. So we are having some past. So what this past is? Some kind of data available with us, right? So as I mentioned, or as Tom Michel also mentioned, this is experience, right? So we are having some kind of a training data. So whatever experience we are having, the term that we are using in machine learning to denote that experience is the training data set. So we are having such kind of training data set, which is a past. So we are having this training data set, which is annotated. So whatever may be the task, I am having the data with its class level or the predicted value. So by making use of this past or this training data, my machine is going to learn something. So using this past, my machine is learning. And after my machine learns, what my machine is providing me, it is providing me a model or a predictor, right? So this is the first part of my machine learning system, wherein I am trying to learn something out of my past. So I am making use of some past experience, that is the training data, and learning something out of that, and I am producing some model out of that. So now at this instance, I have learned something. Now in the future, I am going to make use of whatever I have learned in the past. Right? We also are doing the same things. Whatever is the experience that we are having, right? We try to learn out of that experience. and based on whatever we have learned, we apply that learning to solve our future problems. Machine learning is also doing the same thing, right? So in future, if I'm presenting some test data, so what is this test data? This is the data which is not seen before, which is unknown. Okay, I do not know whatever is the prediction for that data. I do not know whatever is the class of that data. Okay, so in future, whenever I come across, or my model or my machine learning system come across such kind of events, future events, unknown data, test data, then by making use of the earlier learning, that is the model, my system is giving me prediction. My system is predicting something out of that. And this is what the entire concept of machine learning. So once again, I would like to give you some examples here. Like we discussed earlier, one problem, that is, say for example, detecting the spam mails, right? So if I want to detect these spam mails, what would be my training data or my experience? Yes, please speak up.
Any words like money or something like that?
No. See, as I stated earlier, in machine learning approach, we are presenting the data as it is, right? So whatever you are talking about, the money or dollar or something like that, that was required actually to be implicitly given, or not implicitly, but that needs to be provided by the programmer as a rule to identify whether the email is spam or non-spam. Correct? So in machine learning, we are not actually having such kinds of rules. We are not providing any kinds of rules. Instead, in the training data includes the emails as it is. So in training data, say for example, I'll be having email 1 as it is, whatever may be the text written into that email, right? Along with the label associated with that email. So manually, initially, I'm going to annotate that data. Okay, so email E1, say for example, is a spam. Then I'll be having another email E2 in my database. So that email E2 is, say for example, non-spam. Okay. Similarly, I'll be having many such emails, E1, E2, E3 up to En. N is typically a huge number. So let's assume that we are having 100 emails. Okay, so I am having E1, E2 up to E100. 100 emails in my training data set along with its actual label. So this is the task that typically we perform manually. So email E1 is spam, email E2 is non-spam, E3 is once again non-spam, E4 is non-spam, E5 is spam. So this is how we are labeling all those 100 emails in our data set, and that becomes my training data. Right? So out of this data now, I'm going to learn, or my machine is going to learn when to say the email is spam and when to say my email is non-spam. So for my machine learning system, I'm giving this as the input. And my machine learning system is learning out of that data and it is coming up with the rule or the model. Are you able to understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm not providing the rules here explicitly. Instead, I'm providing the training data set that will be treated as my past experience. Right? So training data set is annotated data set. So emails are annotated. I know in advance which email is spam and which email is non-spam. And this data is provided to the system and my system will now learn by making use of that data and builds a model out of that. And that is what the learning is. So my system is implicitly now building the rules to detect the spam mails. So this is learning part. So in future, what I'm going to do, I'm going to present now another email. Say, for example, I had 100 emails in my training data set. So now I'm going to present, say, E101, a new email that was not presented earlier while training. So this is a test email that is being presented now. So what my system will do? My system will use whatever is the learning. So my system has learned, created the model. So there are certain rules available now with my system. Those are being learned and these rules are being used Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I have learned out of the data. I'm ready with my rules. I'm ready with my model. And now whenever a new email E101 is presented to the system, then my system will predict whether it is a spam mail or it is a non-spam mail. Right? So this is what we mean by predicting the future based on the past. And almost all machine learning systems are having this kind of approach. And typically, whenever we are having some past data or training data, and we are making use of that data to learn, such kinds of systems are typically known as the supervised systems or supervised algorithm. Okay, so I hope you must have understood the concept now. So once again, I would like to emphasize machine learning. In machine learning, we are not going to provide any kinds of rules. We are going to provide the machine learning system only the annotated data. The machine on its own or the algorithm on its own is going to learn out of the data and will be preparing some model or will be coming up with rules. And these models are being used for further predictions.